So we have Asha D'Souza with us, we have Anupam Kataria, we have Arzel, we have Dinesh Balika, we have Praveen Kumar. Praveen, please come up. Can someone help Praveen, please? And we have, where's Angad Bir Singh gone? So that's the panel. And historic moment, I would say, because this would be the last ever panel that we organize at Right Every Wrong Conclave. Oh. No more panel discussions after this ever. So, and that's because we're going to change the format, like I said, to Rex, which is 15-minute rock star speakers and performers. Right, Rabinder? So Ted does it with jazz, we'll do it with classical, Indian classical music. So, right? Okay. So our next panel, we have an eclectic mix of, right, from a schoolboy to a global citizen, Arzel, who's come all the way and does a lot of work with the community in the US. We have Asha D'Souza, we have Anupam Kataria, we have Dr. Dinesh Balika, and we have, of course, Praveen Kumar, who walks, talks, and sleeps volunteerism, right? Praveen, I pulled that one on you back, huh? So I get my revenge. Yeah, good. So that's the panel, and the panel is about addressing MDGs. The Millennium Development Goals, 8 Millennium Development Goals. But why are we keeping pushing the time limit rather than doing something about addressing that? And in the forum that I spoke at last year, the UN Volunteers Forum, I decided to be a little politically incorrect in that forum, and I said that if there's just for change, and said that if the Millennium Development Goals have to be achieved, then every person needs to participate in it, because just the UN won't be able to do it. You know, no government would be able to do it, no institution would be able to do it. Every person is responsible, and it's not because we are doing something selfless. It's because we are selfish, because we want a better world for our future generations. Because no matter what kind of wealth you leave behind for your children, if there's anarchy in society, then what's the point? Because your son or daughter could get killed at the next sidewalk street, you know. So that's the discussion is on addressing MDGs, whose mandate, and I would like to start with Asha and request Asha to share her thoughts, and we'll follow the same format. We'll have every speaker share their thoughts, and then we'll open it to the delegation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're not feeling too sleepy after this good lunch we've had. My thoughts are going to be a bit chaotic because I was told only 10 minutes ago that I had to speak on this subject. I guess I feel some responsibility for it because I was a UN employee for some time. But let me keep to just one of the MDGs, because that's what I've been working on these last few years since I'm back in India. And that is the poverty reduction one. The MDGs were, it was an attempt to do what Sanjay Bhargava was talking about, and that is having time-bound real outcomes, but at a very macro level. And I think we have to go from the macro to the micro if we want citizen participation in achieving these MDGs. That's something we tried to do in the place where I'm working, in Orcha near Jhansi. We have started something very small, but which does have an impact on poverty reduction directly. I think one of the problems with our view of economic development is the problem of not taking into account sufficiently the idea of inclusion. There's always this stress on GDP growth and how much is it going to be 7% or 9%, etc. But how far and how many people are included in that growth is the problem. One of the reasons we chose Orcha for our project was that in Orcha you had some amount of wealth coming in from outside through tourism. When you start a livelihoods program in a village, you often have to make do with the resources that are existing in that village. And it's very difficult if there are already scarce resources to have any kind of growth that will impact poverty reduction there. So I think the opportunities for poverty reduction are really where there is some amount of capital and some amount of money coming in from outside, which is the case in tourist destinations. The other point is the skills. How do we make the best use of local skills? Because unless people can actually sell what they produce at a good price, it will be very difficult for them to get out of this $1 a day or whatever the limit is. So I think there's a lot of scope for social entrepreneurship in that sense. That when we started in Orcha, we started a discussion with the women as to what they could produce, what they knew how to produce. And everybody comes up with the same things. We can make papad, we can make agarbatti, and that sort of thing. And these are things which the market is flooded with. And there are so many self-help groups of women producing the same things. So thinking of new fields in which there is a market for their goods is one of the challenges in starting a small social enterprise. And when we started the homestay, that was what attracted people to it. It was that it was something new. It was something that the tourists wanted, to be able to have an opportunity to live with a local family rather than in a hotel. And the people already had the skills for it because they knew how to cook very well, and they had a kind of spontaneous hospitality that people appreciate very much. So this was what they lacked, was the capital, and they lacked the contacts with the outside world, and that's what we were able to bring in through the program. So it's the other problem in poverty reduction or livelihoods programs is the risk factor. People are not, when they are at a certain level of poverty, they cannot afford to take the risks that a normal entrepreneur would take. So we had to give them a loan that was completely interest-free and that they did not have to pay back at regular intervals. So we invested about 1 lakh of rupees in each of the houses in building a room, a toilet and bathroom. But it was the organization that took the risk as to whether the people would come or not to this homestay. So limiting the risk factors that poor people have to take in starting a new income generating activity is another thing we have to pay attention to. And then the marketing of it, and that is often the challenge. And something that I've found inadequate in our system is that the marketing is so dependent on people like us who have an international background and who can do the marketing. I mean, if we get out of there, the local people don't have the language skills to continue to do this kind of thing. So the sustainability of a program like this is a bit iffy. One thought about government programs, because I think that besides private initiative at the micro level, what is happening at the macro level is this famous rural employment guarantee scheme, which I'm sure many of you have a lot more experience with than I have. But when I was at the ILO, it was looked upon as one of the best unemployment schemes in the world. And India was really very, very well profiled for coming up with a scheme that not only provided employment during the off periods for the farmer, for the agricultural community, but also created assets that were used for the public good. So I think this, as citizens, if we can kind of monitor this NREG scheme, there is scope there for really reducing poverty in India through it. And the last point I would like to make is about the monitoring of the MDGs. I think that there has been not enough statistical studies in the beginning to really know at what point we were and how we're progressing from there. And this is the case all over the world. And I think one of the reasons why we've pushed back the deadline another 10 years is that it's just this information processing that hasn't really taken place. So those are the few kind of, I'm sorry if it's a bit chaotic, my ideas, but I haven't had time to really put them in order. And but I think that if we take examples from what Sanjay and Anita have done on monitoring the garbage collection system, and we can apply something like that, citizen monitoring, to MDGs, we might be getting closer to our goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Asha. Interesting thoughts over there, random thoughts, but I think that format works better than coming with a prepared speech.